Great, and we're just about to get started. The presentation is going to start in about right at the top of the hour, which it is right now. So we are going to. So we're very excited to have you join us today for Mindset's webinar on S4HANA. Today's presenter is Mindset Solution Architect and S4 Solution Owner Jonathan Bragg. John has led hundreds of SAP projects for a wide array of clients in a broad spectrum of vertical industries. So really knowledgeable. He's a very frequent presenter with SAP at SAP events and also at ASA conferences. So if you get a chance to see him live, please stop by to say hi. He's put together a really great presentation for today. And actually, without further ado, I'm just going to hand it off to John.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amy, for the great introduction, and thanks for everyone who's joining today. You know, we're talking about a really fun topic for us here at Mindset today, because we're of course very UX focused, and you're hopefully on your way to learning more about your S4HANA journey. So we really want to talk about this in particular with the group coming in today, because there's just a lot of things going on in the marketplace, a ton of marketing hype from SAP, of course, but a ton of real world experience that we also need to map that to. So today we're going to be talking about exactly that, your UX journey to SAP S4HANA. And before we get started, just again, as Amy said, my name is Jonathan Bragg. I've been a principal architect here at Mindset for right around 3.5 to 4 years now. Also the director of our S4HANA solutions, which we'll be talking about today. I've been in the SAP community, both in industry and consulting, for the past 15 years in a number of different roles. So I actually started out in the SAP BW space way back 15 years ago, and then moved slowly into SAP Portal, SAP Basis, and some other roles before landing for the past 5 years, really focusing a lot within Fiori and user experience, and how that can really change the game within your SAP environment. So quickly to go through the agenda, we'll first do a quick introduction on Mindset, you know, who we are and what we focus on. And then I wanted to take everyone through a quick state of the union, you could call it, from ASUG. So this is kind of the state of what is happening within S4 transformations today. We're going to mix that in with some of the research that we've done with our S4 customers and what we're hearing in the marketplace from our side, as well as what does SAP say about involving UX in your S4 project or program. Moving into that, we'll look at using S4 as a catalyst. So how do we use this as a catalyst to transform our business, or really get some game-changing abilities within our SAP system coming out of an S4 implementation? And then finally, we'll really talk through the approaches. So what do we want to do between technical upgrades versus getting into the Fiori user experience, and also our approach in being able to do that to really drive a long-term continuous innovation path for your SAP environment. And lastly, we'll get into Q&A. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. So our mission at Mindset is really to create remarkable experiences. So we focus solely on SAP, and we really want to empower people to do their jobs a lot better within the workplace. So we've all seen a lot of, being in SAP 15 years, as I'm sure a lot of you have as well, really getting more productivity, more experience, more innovation out of an SAP system isn't something that's been an easy task in the past with what happens in SAP GUI a lot of times for our casual end users and our power users and our SMEs that are in the systems at all the time. So we really focus on trying to remake that work experience remarkable for people in their jobs. And we're really proud of being able to focus in that area. A lot of our capabilities, so these are the 4 large areas that we deal with in our solution space. So in the top left there, you have design thinking and our app house. We'll get to talk a little bit about our app house in the presentation here in a bit, but really we focus a lot on design thinking, getting real end users into the room and looking at what a new solution could be to get them through an end-to-end process where they're having pain points. So that practice is very focused on getting end users and people through design thinking and getting into an agile build process. On the upper right, our SAP Innovation and Digital Transformation practice. This is really focused on a lot of the newer technologies within SAP. So if you're looking at Copilot, machine learning, process automation, Leonardo IoT technologies, this practice really focuses on taking a business problem and being able to solve that with a very innovative technology. So this is a little bit of our R&D/innovation space for our SAP customers. In the lower left, we have our SAP Cloud practice, and within this practice, you can see, and if you have a lot of experience within the SAP Cloud Platform environment, there are a ton of different microservices and services involved within that platform. And we use this practice to really see whether you're looking at cloud integration or hosting your Fiori environment within the cloud, or just enabling Web IDE to do Fiori development, and a lot of other different services within the cloud platform there as well. And last but not least, in the lower right-hand side is my practice. This is the SAP S4 digital transformation practice. So it's really exactly what we're talking about today. So how do we get from ECC and technically migrate and transform our customer experience, our user experience within that program to be able to deliver a new level of UX to our end users and our customers. So jumping right in, I really wanted to start with this. This is an ASUG study that was done in, I think, February of this year. And they polled right around 500 customers within the ASUG environment and really asked them about their S4 transformations. So I really like to show this to people because it really paints a picture of where we are, and at least as of February, hopefully things have moved a little bit since then. But it's surprising to me, especially within this slide, how people are moving to S4HANA. S4HANA has been out for almost 3 years now, and we're really just starting to see an uptick in people actually going live, already starting their programs and projects, and have plans to move. But the couple of interesting statistics in here today is that 56% of people that have plans to move in the future. In talking to SAP, that 56% represents almost 30,000 SAP customers that have not moved or do not have an active program that are going on currently. Only 16% of those are currently live and actually using some of the net new features of S4HANA. And another interesting thing, I looked at that 12% that have no plans to move, and they're looking at a roadmap that says, yes, we need to be off of ECC by 2025, but the question is, are they just planning on not having support from SAP, or are they planning on looking at other environments? I think this change and this kind of forceful push by SAP has really driven people to look strongly at all the competitors in the marketplace as well. And luckily, that percentage point isn't any higher that have no plans to move. But it is an interesting statistic still to take a look at. So next, they surveyed those same customers on why people are waiting. So why are we waiting long enough to see where we need to go with S4? And the number one reason was just prioritization. And like I said, I've worked in industry before. This was one of always the top things is the few reasons here. I have 20 different projects going on within my SAP landscape. IT is usually a cost center within an industry, and that's where we really try to look at a lot of prioritization to make sure that we're doing the right projects at the right times. Secondly is a lack of resources, qualified resources, lack of qualified partners, a lack of support from the business to be able to do this at a certain time. So those two things from the industry perspective really drive when someone can fit a project of this size and scale in. This is a once in a 10 years, once in a 15 years movement for people. You think from R3 to ECC to now to S4 has been kind of a 15 to 20 year change or migration for people. The number 3 reason, I've actually heard this one a lot recently, presenting in some local ASUGs and at other conferences. People are waiting to see what the net new features are in the next version. So when we talk about versions, and we have, for example, 1610, 1709, 1809, and 1909. These are all individual versions of S4 that are out there today. People have been waiting to see where they lie on that roadmap to make sure that all of their business functionality is going to be covered. I listened to a customer speaker just last week, and they mentioned that yes, they're now live on 1709 and have been running that way for 4 or 5 months. But what they really were waiting for and what they looked at was when they looked at their ECC environment and they looked at 1510, 1610, et cetera, they didn't see the replication of their business processes being included in S4HANA yet. So finally, he said, by 1709/1809, we're finally starting to get back to the place that we would have been had we transformed earlier from ECC to S4. So the replicating of that functionality is really, really important to customers as SAP builds out the product and builds out the roadmap for where they're going within S4. And the number 4 reason here, the need to justify to the business. So I take this as IT is having a hard time building a business case for implementing S4. And I do ask the question to our customers and clients, is that because you're looking at this as a purely technical migration move versus this is an ability or this is a chance to actually transform. And I think some of it does come down to that. So next, they surveyed people that were looking at technologies. So they asked people, what technologies you are truly emerging in the marketplace? What would you like to use within your environments within the next years? And the three that are listed here are, of course, the big topic areas of today. How can we use AI and machine learning? How can we use IoT? How can we really get into conversational user interfaces? It's a huge percentage point, that 81% of people that really expect and want to implement these innovations within the next 2 years in their environments. I think personally, I'm seeing that conversational user interfaces are almost at the top of that list as far as when we look at how people interact with computer systems, how we interact with the SAP environment. If I can chat back and forth to my colleagues and include technical documents, like you can with some of the Copilot features, that's a real win in collaboration. The other one is machine learning. If I can train models and if I can bring more automation into the workplace, I think the one thing that's missing from this slide is RPA, but I also kind of include that within the AI machine learning space as well. Something that I haven't had a lot of conversations with in the past few months is IoT, which was interesting to me because this was a huge topic area 2 years ago. It was coming of age, being able to install sensors and beacons and different things in stores or warehouses or environments was of huge interest. And we've seen that fall off a tiny bit, but I think those projects are still happening, of course. Lastly, SAP wanted to, or ASUG wanted to, poll users, poll employees of industry jobs, and how much does innovation actually matter? And it's a huge percentage actually that say it affects people's job satisfaction, which I completely understand. People want to be working on the latest and greatest things. If we're not in a technology industry just to implement old technologies and old systems, and we want to see new things within the marketplace. It also attracts talent. So if we're using latest and greatest technologies, if we're using a lot of cutting edge technology within projects, it attracts collegiate possible employees coming out of college. The last one there is how SAP plays a role in this. Within industry, 66% of growing IT teams are investing a lot more in their SAP systems. It's because they can do a lot more automation. They can do a lot more in the system side. There are a lot of partnerships. SAP is becoming a little bit more open source these days. So there's a lot of integrations that can happen with different companies and different data. So there's a lot bigger investment, and people truly think that SAP is a very valuable partner in this. It's a huge percentage of people that really value their input of the things and the technologies that they're putting into play. And the biggest thing to me is that SAP is an amazing software system end to end, and they have a lot of things to work on as far as integrations and APIs and user experience and how they actually go to market with some of those things. But as a foundational piece, as a foundational layer of your SAP system, it's of huge value. So again, that was an ASUG user study. That was done back in February this year. Hopefully those numbers are getting better on the S4 transformations as we, all of us keep talking about it, and we keep convincing customers that this really is the way forward. There is a time limit, and we need to look at some of the new technologies that are coming out within the different S4 environments. So within the next slides here, we pulled a lot of our SAP customers who are looking into migrations in the middle of an S4 project or are trying to figure out where to go. And a lot of these projects and most of our clients are fairly large customers. They're really looking for a large implementation partner to help them along the way. And within this, we haven't really seen a ton of experience with very large implementation partners in the Fiori UX space, which is it's been interesting for me because we've been partnering with a lot of clients and customers along with their large SIs, which we work really well together with. But it's interesting to me that they haven't embraced Fiori and user experience a lot more so far. So there's a lot of things that go with that, but really from SAP's side, as they're starting to get people into S4, as they're starting to transform businesses to be able to use an SAP Fiori-like user experience, people love the tools that are available to them. People love, especially casual users of SAP, they love getting out of a SAP GUI and getting into a Fiori Launchpad-like experience. And SAP is really trying to push this, and we've seen that a lot of customers and partners are leery of doing this off the bat because there's a small level of complexity that it does add, but it really helps you out on the user experience side once you go live. So there's a big difference in between a user interface lead on an S4 project and a user experience manager or user experience leader within an S4 project. So a couple of these bullets on the screen here are just really talking to that. Without a user experience leader, kind of at a program leadership, program management level, there's no true consistency of UX. So if I think of some things that you can do within Fiori, there's multiple ways to customize. And if you're not looking at a global branding, theming user experience for all of your SAP end users, it becomes fractured in a way. So you can have a lot of standard applications deployed to end users in one area of the business, and perhaps you needed to customize other applications within another area of the business. If those two things are not consistent and there is any overlap with those end users, they're going to feel like there's not a consistent user experience going on. So, and what do I mean by that? Buttons are not in the same places. There's no consistent theme or brand of the company within the SAP environment. There's different color schemes in different areas. Tables and fields and things are not aligned in the same way. So it's not easy to go in between those different roles of a company. It could be great for let's say we had one very custom mobile app that needed to look and feel a certain way. that user group doesn't interact with SAP in any other way, shape, or form, that's when it becomes a little bit okay to go away from some of those SAP standard guidelines. But for 95% of your user base, you really want something that's going to be end-to-end consistent and something that can be long-term maintainable, especially within your S4 landscape, where you can start to do major upgrades on a yearly or even a biannually approach. So we took a lot of research from SAP as well as we went through this process to really kind of go together and say, what do we at Mindset think from a user experience standpoint, and what does SAP say? And it really aligned really closely. I was actually pretty surprised at how much SAP is pushing this now as well, which is great. But as you can see, they kind of recommend this UX lead in the middle of the diagram at that same level as either an overall enterprise architect or a programmer, project manager for your S4 environment. And that is just due to that long-term consistency, right? If you have someone making decisions from a UX level or enterprise architect level, we want to make sure that experience is tied to every area of SAP. You can see something down here too, and they have the concept of a user interface lead versus a UX lead as well. So I see, at least in a transformation, if you're activating standard Fiori applications, that's usually an interface lead from a functional area that might do that. So we know that these roles are well, actually Fiori apps are role-based. They're very simple and coherent to understand. They delight end users, et cetera, et cetera. But what we don't see is that a user interface lead is really just looking at, here's the standard apps that work for you, and here's how I can implement them. Great, let's go turn them on, customize them if need be, and roll them out to the business. They're not looking overall at the end user role mapping of how many different people are going to be logging into Fiori, how many groups do I have, how many catalogs do I have, how many applications are on the whole, and how do I make sure that we're not giving a bad user experience to any one of those groups at a time. So they're usually only interested in that singular functional area, which you do need both on the project, right? You need that user experience lead at the top level. And you also need people with functional user interface experience within each of those functions. So whether that's sales, finance, supply chain, manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. A few links to some of the SAP blogs if you do decide to download the presentation here. So what I wanted to switch into here quickly is some ideas of how we use S4HANA as a catalyst to transform our business. And I like starting this section with a lovely picture of SAP GUI. And that's because I like to remind people in a lot of presentations, and I show these slides at ASUGS a lot, but I like to remind people that it is 2019. We've been looking at this SAP GUI in one way, shape, or form, and one shade of SAP blue or another, that for 25 years now, right? Even more sometimes. So for people coming out of college, I think they're starting an SAP career. They go into an IT department and they log on to basically a GUI-based, almost mainframe system type interface. How excited are they going to be to work in that environment for the long term? So I love showing this just because the huge contrast of would you choose SAP GUI rollout, or would you choose something that has conversational UI as part of it? Would you choose something that has embedded analytics within a launchpad? Would you choose something that's very role-based and simple to understand? Would you choose something that has real-time analytics within a homepage that you can drill down into? You can drill down into transactional detail and back up again. There's a lot of things that Fiori does provide from a launchpad experience without even getting into some of the transactional applications that it can do. Just the launchpad itself and what it provides we'll get into in a second. But I do really like going in between these because I don't think it's necessarily one or the other. You don't have to use Fiori for absolutely everything, of course, in S4. You will still have power users. You will still have IT users. You will still have people needing to load data. You have a lot of things that still happen at a transactional level and probably do need the full functionality of the GUI. But the more and more people that are using SAP, the more and more people are, that 80 to 90% casual users, what I like to call them. So they're a sales manager, or they're a finance manager of accounts receivable, and they're really looking for, okay, how's my department doing, at a high level. You can't really get that by going into 5 or 6 different T codes in SAP, but you can get that from a Fiori Launchpad experience if you really talk to those end users and implement it in a correct way for their environment and what their needs are and what their pain points are. So some sample areas of where to actually start this transformation. So some really, really good things happen within a Fiori Launchpad. So the first one here is, how do I roll out and get users logging into SAP via Fiori Launchpad? Again, just as I said, probably not 100% of your users, but a good percentage of people to get started into that Fiori Launchpad experience. And why do I say that? It's the next bullet here. So the enterprise search capabilities within Fiori Launchpad are really amazing to me. So this is something that I demo really quite often. And I can go into a Fiori Launchpad. I can type a document number in. I can type a name in. I can type a customer in. I can type in an AR receivables line item in. And if I hit enter on my enterprise search, if I have access to the backend transactional data, for example, everything that's in the SAP system automatically gets searched and populates in my search criteria, or in my search results. So I can click on any one of those things to get to a transactional level detail. I didn't have to remember that I needed to go to FBLON1. I didn't need to go to VA03. I didn't need to go to or remember any of those T codes for a sales document or an accounting line item to be able to search for this document itself. And again, know what company code I'm using, know what other examples I'm using. Enterprise search is, to me, for SAP, a complete new functionality that absolutely changes how people search for documents in SAP. It's been amazing, and so many people are excited about it when I show it to them, which is seems easy, seems like the quick Google approach to things, but it really is changing. So next, approval applications. So these are applications that are fairly easy to start with. A lot of them are meant for casual users. A lot of them can be enabled on a mobile device. So if I'm looking at approving a purchase order, approving somebody's leave request, approving or denying a purchase requisition, these are things that a lot of C-suites do in companies and are looking for a way to do that because they're on the go 95% of the time, right? They don't necessarily have time to log into a GUI, get SAP training, log into their business workflow, inbox, approve, deny, look for details, et cetera, et cetera. They have a notification that pops up on their phone. They know what it is. They can hit approve. Then they're a happy end user. And so approval applications that hit most all of the business areas are easy ways to showcase where Fiori can work in your environment. The next one is for, within S4 projects, there's functionality within SAP called embedded analytics. And this, I think, is a great start to getting people into Fiori as well, because embedded analytics can only be accessed via Fiori. It uses a lot of the templates and structures and the query browsers and things like that within the Fiori interface and design guidelines interface to showcase real-time analytics within your SAP systems. So I kind of interchange embedded analytics in my mind with operational reporting. And if you can enable a lot of people to use operational reporting, again, let's go back to that sales manager example. We can really look at, okay, what's happening right now within the sales department, within our customer base, are we on track to our plans? And using embedded analytics to do that is quite a simple process. Next is looking into what standard apps actually make sense. So what makes sense for my business to roll out? And again, like I said before, it might not be 100% of users that are logging into Fiori, but what are the processes that would actually benefit from an easy user experience? So going through that process, usually within an S4 project, you have your business requirements sessions, your documentation of the system, what's standard, what's custom, and we really try to match all of the standard applications to what makes sense in a business process. And then also that last one goes with this as well, which is any gaps or large gaps coming out of those sessions are mapped to real user pain points, and those become design thinking opportunities. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So we're going to talk about how we get to know what we want to go after within an S4 program or process. So we like to see this as kind of 3 different phases or 3 different tracks of work. Up front is very high level S4 digital advisory. And of course, we'll get into the details of each one of these. But track 2 is really where we're doing a lot of those functional workshops. So we call these functional discovery sessions of what standard applications or what standard processes actually work for my SMP environment. And then track 3 is actually the agile delivery of doing that. So if I can develop and deliver in an agile way, I can work my way through different process areas. And that's why these line items overlap as well, is because all of this is an agile and iterative process throughout your program. So very first off the bat, digital advisory. So what kind of goes into this? One of the easiest ways, or one of the best ways I like to use in looking at what makes sense to go after is looking at your SAP system usage. So this is, maybe a 1-month snapshot from a productive system of the T codes and transactions that you use, maybe an STO3 and performance trace. And then we take that along with your service desk incidents. So whether you use ServiceNow or another vendor, taking an extract of that same month of service desk incidents can really show areas of pain for real end users. So this is first without going in and doing full end user interviews with the entire population of SAP users. We can narrow down already to places we think are going to be real high interaction or high pain points when we transform to S4. And by doing that, we may have something of high usage. So maybe VA01, sales order creation, is a very high usage in the usage analytics, but there may be very, very low service desk incidents. So maybe it's not the best process to target off the bat. Going forward, yes, we probably want to get some of that transaction time down of how long it takes for a CSR to get off the phone with people, to make sure that their order is successfully in and going through the process. But it may not be the highest area of pain, coming out of that analysis. So that's been a really good tool that we've used in the past. The next is actually end user interviews. So we look to people to really tell us where the pain points lie. A lot of this happens within a design thinking process, but even before that, we can take a subset of those people where we find pain points and really kind of dig in a little bit to see if we want to focus our efforts within this area. Accessibility options. So we've learned a lot, and we've been branding and theming a lot of Fiori Launchpad experiences to make sure there's a lot of accessibility options. So there need to be multiple themes for people with color blindness, for example. And that a lot of times takes a lot of research and looking into, what colors go together. There's charts and graphs that have a lot of different, almost pastel colors within standard SAP libraries. And some of those just really blend together for people. and we need to make sure that there's different options that people can pick from for a user experience theme that will work for them. Others here on the list. So, what are your business drivers of doing S4? What is your business differentiation between your competitors? That's a huge one for me. Where do I want to spend my time? I want to spend my time knowing that I am differentiated from my nearest competitor in X area, and maybe that's we think we're better at this within the warehouse space. We want to make sure that we have a very high performing supply chain. It could be the sales, or it could be finance, et cetera, et cetera. But what makes you different in the marketplace today, and how can we go about that to make sure there's some change to that? So I wanted to talk quickly. Before you get into an S4 program, there are a ton of tools out there available to you. So within SAP, these tools are all free. I'll just do a very high level, and if you download the deck, all of the pictures are navigation enabled to get to these exact items. But the first one is the simplification item catalog, and this is a website that really showcases. So if you're going to S4 1809, you would click on this tile. You would insert your SAP version level, so ECC 6, enhancement pack, let's say the latest 8, and then I'm looking at moving to S4 1809. So from a migration path standpoint, this is a great tool that shows you what changes in between your specific versions of SAP. So that's something that you can poke around in and kind of look at real OSS notes that are coming out from what changes in between different environments. The next one is the S4 readiness check. So the readiness check 2.0 just came out a few months ago, and this is great because it gives you, okay, what business functions do I need to activate when I go live? What are some recommended SAP Fiori apps based on my usage, based on what's out there today, based on what process areas I run? And also the biggest one I think here is custom code analysis. So when I'm technically migrate, what's going to work out of the box on day one versus what is going to have some collisions or some problems running once I go live. This is a great tool. It's installed via S-Note. There's an OSS note to work your way through. It's a little bit complex to get everything set up correctly, but it is highly useful once you come out of that. That's a very detailed report that comes out of that one. This is called the BSR, so Business Scenario Recommendations. This is I would do this before the readiness check. A very easy tool to use. You download some system statistics. Usually a basis person is getting performance data, and we together send that to SAP. Once you wait probably 4 or 5 business days, and that comes back with a full, almost 200-page business scenario recommendations. So nobody reads the full 200 pages, don't worry about that part. But there is an overview and then a detailed section for each functional area that you run based off of your system usage, with recommendations, with what you need to activate, with what notes you should probably look at, and also even some recommendations on what Fiori applications to be able to implement. Two more just to kind of poke around. This is the innovation discovery tool. So you see, there's a website out there that SAP is trying to tout as, here's all the innovations that S4 is trying to get for you. So I always look at this almost as something that you can help your business case with. So here are some of the transformations in user experience. Here are some of the digital transformation areas. Here's things that we can gain from an S4 system that we're not using today in ECC. So again, not more of a system tool, but maybe a little bit of a business case tool for you. Lastly is the transformation navigator. So after you've used a lot of those tools, you want to be able to start along your journey. So this transformation navigator kind of has the different steps, different areas, what I need to install, where I need to go, and exactly how to go through the process within SAP's Activate methodology. This one's really good after you've run that business scenario check, you've run the readiness check, and then you're ready to get started along your way. So just want to point out those tools. They're all free. They're all from SAP. you can contact us to help you run them with you if you have any questions along the way. So the second track of work here is the functional UX delivery. And so this is just a sample workshop process, and this is probably pretty familiar to how you would go through an activate methodology type project. And really, people, when they transform to S4, they want to stay as standard as possible. It's what we hear all the time: net new S4 implementation. I want to be standard out of the box. Of course, I don't want to maintain customizations. I want long-term maintainability, et cetera, et cetera. We usually find that's there's an 80-20 rule of that, maybe 90-10 if you're really lucky, but you're still going to customize coming out of that, of course. But there should be a process in how we determine what we go after. So this is showing standard SAP, showing standard SAP processes, looking at a demo system or roles, or even with your sample data of what the standard business process is from SAP. And then really with those business end users in the room, does this fit? Is this a good fit for what we run here at our business? And can we tweak a little bit of our processes to stay standard, or is that just not going to work at all? And this is where we get our gaps out. So this is a true fit gap analysis. We make sure and document all those gaps, how big are those gaps, and how we need to resolve those gaps. So again, business process diagram, pretty straightforward from there. But what comes out of this is if you have a very large must-have gap within your S4 program, you want to kick that out to design thinking. So this is get those business users into a room, make sure we're doing interviews with all of them, make sure we're designing a process that SAP and the business can work together on, and creating a solution that will work from that. Again, this is that 10 to 20% of the use cases here. Hopefully that 80% is standard. But we love using design thinking for this because it really gets people engaged, gets people involved, and we can design something that really works for end users. And the place that we do that is within our design space or design lab. So as far as this, we have an app house in Minneapolis where we are one of the actually we're the only U.S. partner to have an app house within the United States. There's also SAP spaces in both New York, their Hudson Yards office, and in Palo Alto. But in between that, the only partner space to do a lot of these design activities is our space in Minneapolis. So it's a really fun space. We get people out of their office space and into someplace fun where we can draw on a whiteboard, we can bring up prototypes, we can ask questions, and people aren't trying to respond to 10 different emails because somebody's asking them in the next room. It's really a fun environment to get people into thinking about how to innovate for SAP. This is the design thinking process I use. I've spoken a lot about our design thinking process in the past, so I won't cover that in detail here today. But it's a 6-step process, and it's also the process that was popularized by the Stanford D School. So this is something that the House of Plattner invested in quite a while ago, and really looking at designing for SAP. So these are the 6 steps there, and if you have any questions, please feel to reach out. The third track is actually doing the development on this. So the first area is how are we going to get our Fiori Launchpad up and running. So again, we use a lot of real UX designers, UX experience to create a long-lasting theme and brand for your Launchpad based on your company details, based on what your brand is. So we want to make sure that your corporate website, your SAP environment are very much in line, and people feel a sense of belonging or feel a sense of brand when they come into SAP. This is also where that consistency starts to take place. So if we have catalogs, groups, tiles, how we're going to map users to roles, how we're going to map those personas to roles, and how we train people on using the Fiori Launchpad. That all comes out of this delivery section. A lot of times I get people that ask, once we go into Fiori, that's basically you're customizing. You're going down the custom route of SAP. And I caution that thinking with there are so many new ways to configure instead of customize within SAP, and especially within S4. There are, you can see here, this is a cloud example, but there's about 6 or 7 different spots that you can configure or customize within SAP without actually having it register as an ECC. We had core mods, right? You didn't have to register any objects. You didn't have to go through developer keys. You didn't have to do a lot of that to create these custom views or to create these configurations on an SAP Fiori. Nothing that we change around in the user interface on Fiori impacts backend table structures or impacts a backend SAP system. So that's been something I really want to throw out there, is that there's so many ways to configure or customize SAP without really going off the rails that it's worth it to think about. Our method, so agile delivery method from us is, of course, a very iterative approach. We really like small teams, so a 5 to 7 person Scrum team. In an S4 environment, I almost like these people to be very functionally focused. So I could have a Scrum development team working only on sales functionality, working on finance functionality, working on supply chain functionality. So we kind of have 3 teams of iterative development going on as workshops end. So we get a backlog, we add details into that backlog, we have product owners within those functional environments, and they can develop and work off of that backlog in 2-week sprints. So this is showing real work, real progress to those business SMEs, business sponsors, and end users every 2 weeks. And that's just a great agile delivery process that we've been using for at least 4 years now to get into a lot of the Fiori environments. There's a few advantages of that. I want to make sure we save some time for questions here, so I'll skip that one for today. But there's a lot of advantages of going through an agile development process and getting up to speed within agile development, and how that really lowers costs based on product owner involvement, business involvement, and that small size Scrum team working together efficiently. This one is really important. This is a fun thing for me. I actually am the product owner of this app for Mindset. The Fiori App Analyzer, this is something we're giving out to free for anyone who asks. We started developing this for ourselves because we were really interested in how many people were using Fiori within our environments. So we wanted to prove, how much user adoption had increased based on what we're rolling out to people. And we said, well, why don't we just release this to the market as well? This is a great piece of information, fairly high level. And what it tells you is, here's how many users are logged in. So this is how many people are logging in through a Fiori Launchpad. What type of browser are they using? Where are they coming in from? What's the performance of the device that they're logging in from? What's the device type? So are they coming in from a mobile device, a tablet, or a desktop? Who are some of the top users, and what are the applications that they're using? So you can really see, and what we're adding to this is all real-time information. What we're starting to add to this is to get into some of that trending analysis. So a little bit of reporting on where people have used apps in the past, where we can expect user adoption to increase. It's a great go-live tool for us. And feel free to contact us if you'd like the Fiori App Analyzer, because I think it's a lot of fun and pretty easy to see where people are logging in. So kind of 2 things to wrap up here before questions. You're probably in two different minds right now of where you are in your journey to S4. So the first one is, we already went live with SAP S4HANA, but we didn't do a lot within the Fiori user experience space. And we have some customers that did exactly this. They did a technical migration, and they are looking at what was missing or what's now missing from their environment based on not thinking about Fiori. So some reporting functionalities within finance, some areas such as the embedded analytics that are now standard things that kind of went away from some of the standard reports that you would roll out in ECC. have changed into a Fiori experience. So there's definitely some things that change, and that can be found in that simplification catalog, but it's very important to keep in mind. The second one is, we're really just now starting, we're kicking off an S4HANA program. How and where we want to include UX as part of a transformation within our space. We have a partner or don't have a partner already. We're really looking to talk to you to make sure that that we start this off correctly, and you want to really transform people's experience instead of install SAP GUI and let them use SAP GUI throughout the next years of your S4 program. So with those, we have a couple of slides and kind of some questions we like to ask customers. So if you're already on S4, do you feel like as you've transformed into S4, are you getting everything out of your investment? Are your users actually accessing Launchpad or a subset of your users? Do you have a continuous innovation cycle that's already set up? Have you used SAP Cloud Platform for anything yet? Do you know of ways to integrate with different systems and different things within either your Fiori Launchpad or within your user experience? Are there problems after go live, et cetera, et cetera? So these are some things that we like to ask our customers, and just to see where they're coming out of their S4 implementation. If you're just getting started, those are some of the same questions as well. But really, ask us questions. Ask us about the new Fiori technologies. Ask us about standard S4 versus custom. Ask about where to be able to start. Ask us about those planning tools. Those planning tools are 100% free, and we're happy to help try and implement those with you. So we want to make sure that you're getting all the information you need from SAP, especially in an unbiased opinion. So yeah, with that, I think let's see, we have close to 10 minutes left. I think we're ready for questions, Amy.
Yeah, no, great presentation, John. And we do have a couple of questions. The first one is, are you seeing people only do a technical upgrade to S4, and why? What are the benefits, or are there benefits?
Yeah, great question, because a lot of customers we talk to, they are initially interested in a technical migration. There's a good percentage of people that want to make sure their business can run just like it did yesterday to today without a whole lot of user change. These customers are usually looking at a project as, okay, we have until 2025 to do this. Let's technically migrate so we're on the platform, and then we'll think about a lot of these new technologies. I would say that that's a fine way to go. The benefits to that are you have your business running day one. You haven't gone through a lot of user change and logging into a new area. What I'd say the drawbacks are is that you're not really fulfilling a business case that I can see. So there's no real ROI on using the same exact thing that you did yesterday, just on a different platform, but spending lots of money to get to that place, right? That's why in the presentation here, I like to say that we've using this as a catalyst to transform, using S4 and the S4 business case to transform into something new. But that's a good question, because a lot of customers are looking at technical migrations as a first starting point.
Actually, John, I think our second question is sort of related. So it was, what are the risks associated with not using Fiori when you go to S4? So I'll let you address that.
Perfect. Yeah, I pretty much. Yeah, I got two questions in one. Not bad. So some of the benefits of using Fiori, of getting that within the transformation are, really starting to get into a continuous innovation cycle, like I said. So if you can pick a few business units, even one business unit as you're going live with S4 to include this in, you can start to get people within that new experience. You can start to deploy standard apps. You can start to do research on how this is really affecting and changing the way the company does business, and using that as a starting point to say, we need to do more of this, or we need to research other technologies such as machine learning, such as RPA. Where can we automate via Fiori or automate via reporting, things like that. So yeah.
Great. Next question. What are the types of specific innovations available out of the box with S4?
Oh, this is a good question too. So there is a lot within standard out of the box functionality of Fiori and innovations is documented in the Fiori apps library. There are things called lighthouse scenarios. Lighthouse scenarios are things that are only available within a certain version of S4 that SAP is really trying to tout as a hashtag intelligent enterprise piece of functionality. So some quick examples that I can think of there are trying to use a lot of RPA technologies within the business suite. So wherever I can automate, for example, finance. So finance automatic closure of accounts or receivables or things like that, instead of having a user look at an entire month's launch pad or anything like that. You can look at just an exception report that they have to look at. So that's just one of them there.
Great. Last question. Are there any S4 planning tools that you recommend?
Oh yeah, so all of them I showed there are free and available. I think the two biggest ones that I recommend are the business scenarios, so the BSR tool, because it's free and it's easy to submit to SAP, and also the readiness check, because it's really looking at your specific SAP system and giving recommendations off of your specific usage. So those two are probably the biggest ones that I recommend not to skip. Oh, I did see, Amy, there's a question in the chat just now, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep. Meryl, is Fiori Launchpad the preferred or only way to access the apps? I would say, so Fiori Launchpad is the preferred way. Now, depending on your deployment models, so if you're looking at mobile devices and you're looking for a very specific user group, you can choose to deploy native applications to tablets and mobile devices. You can also, you can link in Fiori apps into, if you have an SAP portal today and you're still looking at using portal for the first little bit before you transform into a Launchpad experience. We've seen people go through an assessment of, do I want to use my corporate, my corporate website built on React or built on Angular to be able to do so. We haven't seen too much success in doing that. People still kind of lean towards the Launchpad for SAP apps, and you can create a tile to pretty much anything there with SSO enabled. So if you wanted to punch out to Google, if you wanted to punch out to your corporate website, or other cloud apps like Concur or Hybris or even Salesforce and external non-SAP tools, you can do that from the Launchpad as well. So I like to really push the Launchpad just from the functionality that it gives from an SAP perspective. But you do have to look at all your other corporate applications that are going to be involved in people's day-to-day life. So that just goes along with that consistent end user experience. But great question, thanks.
Perfect. I think that's the end of the questions, actually. So there we go.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So I think, oh, did you have anything else? Wasn't sure if there was another slide.
Oh, let's see. No, I think that's it.
That is? Okay. Awesome. I think our time's up today. If you find that you have any additional questions or you're interested in receiving the recording for today's webinar, please reach out to either John or myself, and we can schedule some time to talk one-on-one with John regarding any projects we have in mind. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks.